Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. I'm here with Deidre Wilson, who's a therapist that we know and care about and support. And so, Deidre, would you mind just kind of telling us a little bit about you and your practice and what you specialize in as we get started today?
Sure, Brock. Yes, thanks for having me. So, I'm a marriage and family therapist. I'm also a licensed professional counselor in private practice. My office is in McKinney, kind of near El Dorado and Custer. I specialize in working with committed couples recovering from infidelity, high conflict couples, and couples on the brink of divorce. My husband and I live in Plano with our two rescue dogs who are not big fans of social distancing. And I'm always looking for my next big fitness challenge.
All right. Well, hopefully you can find a good fitness challenge during this time. Mine is just to get out of bed each day. Deidre, one of the things that is we're hearing a lot about is like as we have this time, we maybe have a little more free time, a little more time to be at home. We're dealing with kids a little bit more because of the schooling and all that kind of stuff. And so one of the big phrases that I've always been a huge fan, I don't think we do enough of, is self-care and making sure that we're taking care of ourselves so we can help others. So how important would you describe, or like how vital is self-care during this time especially?
hmm Well, I think it's super important right now, Brock. People may not have the outlets or the resources they usually rely on to cope with stress. And research tells us that people are more likely to struggle with anxiety and depression and anger during a crisis. So if we're more likely to struggle in that way and we have less resources than we typically do, then self-care becomes even more important.
Yeah. And so it seems like, and it might even be difficult to do because, we see all these people maybe posting on their social media outlets about all the wonderful things they're doing. And like, hey, I'm able to watch Tiger King and Joe Exotic, and that's about all I can bring to the table right now. But what would be some ways or what kinds of self-care would be really important and good for us to focus on during this time?
hmm Well, what I'm hearing from some people in my circle is that they're really feeling a loss of control due to the disruption of their normal routine, their normal life. There's a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty. So I think it's important to regain a sense of control so that you can feel empowered in your own circumstances. One way to do that is to really be aware of what you're thinking. Rumination will always keep you stuck and make it any self-care difficult. So I encourage people to really pay attention to the stories they're telling themselves. What are you rehashing in your mind? Are you being really critical of yourself right now for what you're not doing or what you think you should be doing or you're not doing well enough? Our thoughts determine our feelings. And so that negative self-talk leads to more negative feelings, and that contributes to more of that anger and depression and anxiety, and to more just feeling out of control. So it's a really vicious cycle. So the more people can really pay attention to what they're entertaining in their mind, I think that would go a long way to taking care of oneself.
Yeah. So are there what would be some practical ways that we could, because sometimes it's easy to say, hey, I got to get control of my thoughts. And what are some practical things that you have clients do that you've done to kind of help get control of those thoughts a little bit more?
Right, that's a great question. So awareness is one of those things. So check in with yourself. Ask yourself some questions. What successes did I have today? What positive experiences did I have? What did I do that brought joy or peace or energized me? Being aware of the answers to those questions makes it easier to incorporate more of that. So I think it's so easy to get caught up in just the chaos maybe of the here and now. We're not really great about checking in with ourselves. So if we can check in, I think that's really important. Another way to manage that is if you recognize that you're having a lot of those negative thoughts, or they're really intense, or you're just rehashing a lot of that in your brain, delay thinking about them. So you might say, that's a negative thought, I'll think about that later. That's a negative thought, I'll think about it later. And really kind of put them in a bucket so it frees you up in the moment, and then you can take some time later in the day to sort through those negative thoughts. Maybe there's some legitimacy to some of them, and you need to pay attention to some of them. Some of them may be less legitimate, and we want to not spend much time or energy on those. But stopping the thoughts in the moment and delaying thinking about them until later can give you some immediate relief.
So it's like saying, hey, that is legitimate fear. I'm just going to kind of put a pin in it and come back to it later and spend some time on that. One of the things that I've been doing, and so I wanted to, this is free therapy for me, I'm taking advantage of here right now,
Perfect.
is I read a book years ago called The Year of Living Biblically. And so this guy decided to live as best he could the Bible for a year. And so one of the things that really stood out to me about that book is he decided to just be in this thankfulness mode for like a whole week, and just like, thank you, God, for this doorknob that I can get in and out of my house. Thank you for this chair that I can sit in. So just really, it was almost like he was reframing. And so one of the things I've been trying to do is to reframe and just kind of take some time each day, even as I'm walking the dog, to think about, what are all the things that I'm really thankful for right now? What are the things that my wife does really, really well? What are some things I can be thankful for about my kids? And just kind of almost reframing, because it's easy to go to that negative route, but I've been trying to get my brain to go to that positive route. Is that a healthy thing to do, or have I just created a lot of potential serenity now and sanity later? Is that what I've done? So
No, Brock, I think you're right on target there. The way I look at that is, right, find the positives in your circumstances, right? It's so easy just to focus on kind of the craziness or what's really disruptive. But like to the point you're saying, what do you have time to do now that maybe you didn't have time to do before? Maybe is it more quality time with your spouse or quality time with your kiddos? More opportunity to complete those projects on your to-do list at home. More time outside in the fresh air, right? So really paying attention to what is working well, how can I make the best of this situation, and finding the positives can be real helpful.
yeah, and then finally too, we're just, as I know you and your husband believe obviously in the power of prayer, just even taking those things when they have those moments of just fear and overwhelmingness, and saying, I can deal with those later, but I'm going to bring those to the Lord, or be able to talk to someone. And that's one of the things that's been beautiful about this time too, is through technology, is I know that you're doing telehealth, where people could still talk to you, could still reach out to you if they want someone to help them through a conflict in their own life, their marriage, whatever. And so I just know that that might be an option for people. And Deidre's information is on our website at hopefellowship.net/counselors. You can find her there, Deidre Wilson. She'd be a great person to talk to. So any parting thoughts? So far, this interview is really good. The dogs have not interrupted us at all. So any parting thoughts that you would like to share with everyone as we head out?
Sure, right. I think it's important to remember that self-care is not selfish. When we practice good self-care, everyone benefits. We're more loving, patient, and kind. So it's not selfish, and it's a really healthy thing to do for yourself and your family.
Yeah, that's so true. Because I used to think self-care was just all about me, but it is in some regard. But I'm doing this so that I can be a blessing and help other people more than I can really, normally would be if I'm not taking care of myself. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Deidre, thank you for your time. We'll talk to you before too long. And thanks for everything you do to help out Hope Fellowship and help out people in this area. I really do appreciate it a lot.
Thank you, Brock. I appreciate you.
Ask us.